What's up, guys? Today's video is brought to you by Upside. And how could you not be excited about Upside when inflation is killing us all? Whether it's driving less, dining out less, or buying less at the grocery store, we can all agree there's nothing fun about less. But now with Upside, you can get cash back on gas, groceries, and all those other things with the app. Guys, my car gets about $12 a gallon. And look at your boy. You know how much I love food. I use Upside for each and every one of them. It's easy to use. Then the question becomes, not what am I going to do to save money, but what am I going to do with all the cash I'm saving? When you use Upside, you can keep those treat items like getting my beautiful nails did, my hair done. I got to look pretty, you know what I'm saying? So to get started, download the free Upside app in the App Store or the Google Play Store. Use my promo code Cormier. Get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. Next, you can claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. Check in at that business, pay as usual with the credit card, and get paid, or debit card. And in comparison to credit cards, loyalty programs, you get 3 times more cash back with Upside. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, e-gifts, or Amazon and other brands. Upside users are earning more than $4 million every week. That's probably why they got a 4.8 star rating on the App Store. Guys, I use Upside for everything. I use it from groceries to just making sure DC looks pretty all the time. Get on the App Store. Use Upside, save money.
I'm gonna show you how I'm experienced.
What up, guys? It's November 23rd, and welcome back to 3 Rounds. First off, I want to thank each and every one of you for all the love that you've given me on this show. And last week, it was our most viewed 3 Rounds to date. So I thank y'all for embracing this thing that I love so much. And you all know that this is my baby, right? An idea I came up from scratch, and you guys have really showed me support, so I love you for doing that. But as you know, I'm sweating. The warm-up's done. So it's time to get to the fight. Let's go.
I'm gonna show you
So it's time for round 1. Michael Chandler has set his eyes on 2 of the sport's biggest names. Chandler this week has been on a bit of a interview tour, speaking to ESPN's Brett Okamoto and Ariel Helwani, saying that he wants the big fish from the pond. First calling out Conor McGregor again.
He and I step inside the octagon. We do staggering numbers.
Then saying if not McGregor, he want to fight Jorge Masvidal for the BMF title.
Daggum, tell me that wouldn't get the juices flowing of the entire mixed martial arts world. Michael Chandler versus Jorge Masvidal for the BMF belt.
Both of these fights are great fights, but I got to be honest with you. This one tells me a bit of something else because it tells me a little bit of a different story. Dana White called Michael Chandler the Arturo Gatti of the UFC. And if you remember Gatti, Italian, tough guy, fun, exciting, world champion, but he never quite beat the elite of the elite. So the comparison is a bit fair in that regard because Chandler, while he was a Bellator champion, he didn't beat Gaethje, didn't beat Charles, didn't beat Dustin. Even though the fights were fun, ultimately he lost. But back to the statement. This tells me that Mike's focus has shifted a bit. It feels like now the title isn't at the forefront for Michael Chandler because the guys that he's calling aren't in championship contention. You all know that Jorge Masvidal's championship days are a bit behind him, and Conor McGregor also is not in title contention. So Mike's like focused on 2 fights because they're fun, they're tough fights, they make sense, but they're also 2 of the biggest names in the game. After Chandler beat Tony Ferguson, it seemed like he was very close to the McGregor fight. But honestly, I think that the Dustin Poirier fight lends itself more to why I believe Michael Chandler has a chance to win the Conor McGregor sweepstakes because Conor understands that Mike can wrestle, but Mike is more willing to stand with him, which would make for a really fun fight and also be a matchup for Conor that would seem to benefit him a little bit because he's not trying to grind him out like Khabib would do or a guy like Islam or any of those other dudes. But when I get into McGregor versus Chandler, I can't help but get a bit excited because I'm talking about 2 dudes. While they have both lost 3 of the last 4, Chandler and McGregor have combined for 30 knockouts and 45 wins. That's crazy to think that these dudes have been able to finish fights in the way that they've been able to finish fights. But when I think of Michael Chandler and his explosiveness and his ability to just kind of get in the guys, one of the most athletic guys the UFC has. But does that benefit him in a fight with McGregor? As we have seen McGregor fight guys that are unbelievably explosive, Jose Aldo being one, and never looking better. to become the featherweight champion of the world. We have seen Conor beat Eddie Alvarez, another great athlete, a guy that fought Michael Chandler, tooth and nails. I get MMA math doesn't work. I'm not trying to imply that because he beat Eddie, he can beat Michael Chandler. I'm just saying that it would lend itself to McGregor and his style because Michael Chandler is a guy that comes forward. We know Conor has that tremendous left hand. But Michael Chandler saying he wants these dudes, it just tells me that the mindset is changing a little bit. Masvidal doesn't seem to be available or didn't seem to be available because he was like calling out Gilbert Burns, and I thought this made all the sense in the world. But then today I see that Burns is in talks to fight Neil Magny. So I think Jorge Masvidal is putting himself further and further away from an opportunity because he suggested fighting on the same card as Usman versus Leon Edwards. I thought that was a great call by him because if somebody got hurt, especially Kamaru Usman, he slides right into a title fight. But by being the odd man out once again, Masvidal is on the shelf. So I believe that Chandler has a much better chance at finding himself against McGregor because of what we saw in Madison Square Garden and because of what we saw against Justin Gaethje. Because for a guy like Conor McGregor, who does not want to be taken down over and over again, a fight with Michael Chandler would be real fun. And think about Michael Chandler. Dude said, I'm not here for a long time, I'm here for a good time. Who's had a better time than Mike? I mean, he's fought the best of the best on the biggest stages, and he has really rocked and put people on their feet. So Chandler's made an impact. He's a fun guy, and he just might be Arturo Gatti. But in being Arturo Gatti, it leads to this question. Is that a good place to be or a bad place to be? Because Arturo was fun, but he never ultimately reached the mountaintop. Guess we're going to find out.
I'm gonna show you how yeah.
All right, for round two, Khamzat Chimaev wants the champion, and he wants the champ December 10th. He said that he's ready to fight Alex Pereira on December 10th and that he has signed a contract. But I got to tell you one thing, Khamzat. You want to know who else wants to fight Alex Pereira? Robert Whittaker, Marvin Vettori, Derek Brunson, Bo Nickel, Jack Hermanson, and every single other middleweight in the world who has any type of wrestling background. Because after watching Israel Adesanya not only get a takedown but control him in the way that he did, guys are salivating at the idea of fighting the new champion. They believe that there's such a glaring hole that they can take advantage of it. So yeah, if I'm Chimaev, I called the UFC on Sunday, the day after he became champ. But the thing is this, it's not happening. Khamzat's not getting that fight. Because if he did, it would be just unfair and very unfair. Because if anyone deserves a rematch, it has to be Adesanya, right? Like, guys, I understand that at times you get mad at Izzy in the way that he fought, and you get upset with, oh, it's boring, and he just wins. But I mean, to win 12 in a row to start your UFC career, be on the heels of Anderson Silva, defending the belt 6 times, lose it to a guy that wasn't even in the UFC as of last year, essentially losing it to the ghost from your past, and now you want to move past him? Doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. Doesn't work like that. So on December 10th, there will not be a fight. It's that simple. I can't believe the amount of hype and press that it got because it's essentially a fantasy matchup. Now, would it be a favorable matchup for Khamzat? Absolutely. But let's not act as if Poatan is going to be easy, because one thing we learned in last week's fight or 2 weeks ago is that regardless of if he's outskilled in an area, he's got so many intangibles that makes him so dangerous. He's massive for one. He's unbelievably strong, and he hits harder than most. And what if you can't wrestle him? What if you can't take him down effectively? You're Khamzat Chimaev, that's early still into his UFC career. Even though he's got some big wins, still fairly early in his UFC career. How would you win if you can't get takedowns and get them over and over again? Dude's kickboxing is on another level. And the stories of his training is what I believe is probably most impressive. Legend. The way people talk about these two, it's crazy. I honestly, it feels like they're talking about Tom Sawyer. He chopped down a 100-foot tree and all that other shit that they would tell us when we were in school. about Tom Sawyer and all these fucking dudes, the Jolly Green Giant. The way they talk about Poatan. And not only Glover and them, I'm talking about just people in the world, because I've got a kickboxing former training partner that talk about Alex Pereira like he was like not from this world. The man became the world champ in 1 year, guys. 1 year. He became a world champion. That to me shows how good Alex Pereira is. Because I will tell you this, it is impossible to become a UFC champion. I know everybody's saying, oh, I see champions in 7 weight classes or 6 or however many we have. It's impossible to be a UFC champion. It's that hard because there are so many people fighting to become a champion in the biggest organization in the world is damn near impossible. Alex Pereira, Poatan is viewed as a weak champion because he has that one glaring hole in his game. But I got to be honest, guys. I don't think it's time to find out if that hole will ultimately cost him his championship. Because I think he gets another standout fight with Adesanya. I think you have to do it. And I believe it will be a fun fight just as the other 3 fights were. There will be ebbs and flows. There will be high drama. And the 2 best kickboxers in the UFC will fight each other. And then we get to see him against one of those elite wrestlers. So sorry, Hamzat. As much as I love you, my friend, it's not going to be your time yet. All right, time for round 3 after I just come off that 10-8 round. That was a good one. Valentina Shevchenko is afraid, according to Tailia Santos. The bantamweight contender who gave Valentina her toughest fight since moving down to flyweight told MMA Fighting that she didn't have to get surgery, so she's been training. You remember before, everyone thought that after the accidental clash of heads, she would have to get surgery on her orbital. I don't know how, but like a couple times recently, I've seen people like not have to go and get the orbital surgery. I don't know what that turns into if they get hit again in the eye. But she said that she didn't have to have surgery, so she's been back to training. She went on to say, quote, "We've been asking for fights over and over again. Asking for the rematch, really," she told MMA Fighting. Tiago, my manager, spoke with Mick. We informed them that I was well in training. They even said that Valentina was running. She asked them for fights, but not against me. Santos also said that it's not just the champion that's running from her. She said they've offered fights against her to 6 or 7 girls, and no one's agreeing. No one wants to fight her. Now, when it comes to Valentina, it's a bit of a hard thing for me to believe because I know who Valentina is. I don't think she's afraid of anybody. All we've seen is her dominate since she went down to 125, her natural weight class.
I want to keep fighting, and no matter who, bantamweight, flyweight, I'm here. Just bring it on.
So to imply that she is afraid seems like a bit of a stretch. But the one thing that Tyler did show was that Valentina's human. And with the right game plan, she can be tested and be beat. And honestly, guys, if not for that clash of heads, I don't think for a second Valentina would have been able to make the adjustments on the fly to have helped her retain her championship. She was down 2 rounds to 1, and it was getting worse until they hit heads and the girl couldn't see for the rest of the fight in Singapore. And I love Valentina. I'm just shooting it straight with you. She was in a lot of trouble. When we look at 2022 as a whole, it's kind of been the year of the challenger, the underdog. And I believe that Tailia Santos was on her way to becoming champion. And pulling off one of those massive upsets that we never expect. But as 2022 comes to a close, we have now seen twice. And Kamaru Usman getting knocked out by Leon Edwards and Israel Adesanya getting knocked out by Alex Pereira. For Santos to get the fight again, she's going to have the confidence knowing that she can beat the champion if she can attack her in the same way. But I think the most telling thing for me in that fight was the mistakes that the champ started to make. I was kind of astounded because it's not something that we see. But because of the pressure of the fight and how unfamiliar it was for her to be losing, she started fucking up. Valentina started making mistakes. It's crazy because she doesn't make mistakes. But what if the champ doesn't make those mistakes? What if she doesn't get out scrambled and giving up takedowns? What if she doesn't try to throw headlocks over and over again? Will Santos be able to implement that same game plan but having to secure her takedowns and not out-scrambling her for those takedowns. Because a lot of her scores was off of things that Valentina made mistakes on, and then her controlling once they got to the ground. She's big, she's strong, she's physical. Can she do that if Valentina doesn't make those mistakes? If she closes up those holes and now being in that situation before, understands how she needs to fight Tailia Santos. But I think what's the most telling part about the way Santos is approaching this, it's long been very useful in fighting. You call the champ scared, you challenge their ego, and then they respond. Do you believe that they're scared? Not necessarily, but it's a game that you play. And Santos is playing that game. But I ask this question, will it work out for her, or will it be one of those times where you get what you ask for? You don't really want it. I guess we're going to see. But I see you, Tyler. I see you, Tailia Santos. Let's go. Now for my final thought. Let's look at the Nurmagomedovs. 142-11-3. We're talking about Khabib, Abu Bakr, Usman, and Umar. The level of domination that these guys have put on display has been like nothing we have ever seen before amongst that many people. Because it's 4 of them. And I'm not going to put the guy with the losses on blast as they did on Bellator the other day. But the losses don't come from everybody. These guys support each other like brothers, as they are. And if you saw Usman fight the other day, dude's next level. And he might just be too good for Bellator already. Might be ready for the elite of the elite. But that leads the question, comes to 155, does he have to wait till Islam's going to become champ? He's better off where he is, fighting the best guys Bellator has to offer. Umar just got a fight scheduled against Hani Barcelos. Another big moment for that kid. They're friendly. They're a family. That all starts from the great Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov. He trained those guys like champions. He trained those guys like killers. And they are showing that they really can dominate the mixed martial arts world. They've got 2 major world champions right now. And Umar seems to be the guy who's getting closer. A level like we've never seen before. Guys, the sky's the limits for these guys. And to be this close to it, it's hard to believe that there's a stop or an end in sight. They're getting better. So make sure you're paying attention now so that you can always be one of those people that say, hey, I remember when they first started, when Umar became a UFC fighter, one day when he becomes a champion. Guys, like, subscribe, and run those numbers up like last week. It's my baby, man. Come on. Till next time. Peace.